Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is continuing to play out the bearish divergence in the short term as the price is still struggling around this massive resistance that we need to pay attention to. And in just 1 day from now, happening tomorrow, is the next FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, which can potentially heavily affect the market in the short term. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is still perfectly playing out this bearish divergence, while the price of Chainlink is still rejecting from this significant resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the upcoming FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, where essentially the Federal Reserve of the United States decides on interest rates, and this could potentially heavily affect the crypto market, at least in the short term. And tomorrow's Fed interest rate decision happens at exactly 6 p.m. GMT, so you could use that to work out with your own time zone, but 6 p.m. in the GMT time zone on the 7th of May, so tomorrow. And the current Fed funds rate on the high end is sitting at 4.5%, and the current expectations based on what the market is pricing in is simply 4.5% after tomorrow's Fed meeting. So basically no change in interest rates is the expected outcome. And in fact, if we're looking at what the market is actually pricing in, what the futures market is saying right now, there's approximately a 97% probability of no change in interest rates tomorrow, and around a 3% probability of an interest rate cut, so reducing interest rates by 0.25%. And basically all you need to know about this and how it can influence the market tomorrow is that if the rate comes out as that 4.5% number on the high end, so basically no change in interest rates, if that happens, that will be relatively neutral for markets. We shouldn't really see any major impact in the markets because pretty much everyone is already expecting that, everyone is pricing that in. But if we somehow see a different outcome than no change in interest rates, so for example, if we see that interest rate cut or somehow an interest rate hike, so increasing interest rates, basically if there's any change to interest rates tomorrow, we'll likely see a big impact in the market. And so essentially, if we see an interest rate cut tomorrow, we'll likely see a pump across the markets. If we somehow see an interest rate hike, increasing interest rates tomorrow, we'll likely see a dump across the markets. And as usual, around half an hour after the interest rate decision is released tomorrow, about half an hour after, we have the Jerome Powell press conference, where basically the boss of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, talks about interest rate decisions maybe in the future and monetary policy and things like that. And depending on what is said in that press conference, that can also influence the markets in the short term. So just keep that in mind as well. And so overall, just expect a bit of volatility, especially if we see any change in interest rates. Expect a lot of volatility in that case tomorrow. And as always, I will keep you up to date in real time over on my Twitter link below if you want to get extra updates as soon as these things are being released. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, on this 4-day time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red, so nothing's changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, at least for now, we still have this massive bearish divergence to watch out for. So of course, nothing's changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously, like I've been saying recently, we are moving closer towards a bullish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, but we're not there just yet. We're still potentially another week away based on the current rate. And so overall, this signal at least is telling us that we are in the recovery stage out of this pullback here in the price of Bitcoin, like what we saw back here, for example, or back here, for example, but not necessarily experiencing significant bullish momentum until we first confirm that bullish crossover, at least based on what we saw these last few times here. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now the price of Bitcoin is continuing to find a lot of resistance in this area right here, based on the volume profile indicator showing a lot of resistance in between around 96,000 to 98,000. So continue to expect the price to struggle in that exact price range. And obviously that's exactly what we've been doing recently here on the channel. And as I've also been mentioning recently here on the channel, if we can finally confirm a breakout with candle closes confirming above 98,000, in that situation, we don't really have a lot of resistance above 98,000. So in other words, once we see a confirmed breakout here, expect a continued bullish move towards all-time highs. But for now, in the somewhat shorter term, of course, we are seeing a short-term cool off from pretty much overbought territories in the daily Bitcoin RSI. And obviously, this is exactly what I've been talking about over the last week or so, pretty much since all the way back here. I've been telling you it's very likely we're now going to start slowing down the bullish price action. And from this point right here, I've been saying expect either choppy sideways price action or maybe a slight pullback. And so far, that's exactly playing out as I've been predicting. And potentially over the next one day, we'll continue to see this play out, potentially all the way up to the Fed meeting. And then depending on what happens in that Fed meeting tomorrow, that once again can influence the market in the short term. But at least just in the next one day, over the next 24 hours, expect the same sort of price action that we've seen over the last 1 week moving forward. So basically lacking bullish momentum. Don't expect a massive bullish move just in the next one day, perhaps after the Fed meeting if something's really bullish in the Fed meeting itself. But once again, just for now, expect a continued cool off. And of course, we're still struggling and rejecting from this significant resistance based on the golden pocket area of resistance here on the daily Bitcoin price chart. And that's sitting at around 96,000 to 98,000. So once again, we're still struggling at that area. But once we see a breakout above 98,000, in that situation, we could find some resistance at around 102,000. But ultimately, it's extremely likely we'll just continue a bullish move towards all-time highs once we first see a breakout above 98,000 confirm. And as for short-term support to watch out for, we do have some support right here at just underneath 94,000, around 93.8k, more support at around 92,000, and significant support at around 88,000. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 6-hour time frame, obviously right now the price of Bitcoin is perfectly playing out this bearish divergence that I've been warning about since back up here. And of course, since then, I've been telling you expect a short-term pullback, or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action. So basically no significant bullish price action just in the short term. And obviously, I've been saying that since right around here, and that's been perfectly playing out as predicted. And considering the fact we've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate this short-term bearish divergence, continue to expect the same sort of price action that we've seen over the last few days continue moving forward, at least over the next one day, maybe longer, but at least over the next 24 hours up until that Fed meeting, expect the same sort of price action here. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we basically just brushed against significant liquidity that was just below the price of Bitcoin, at least in the short term, and that was sitting at approximately 93,000, just above 93k. So keep in mind that is a short-term target at around 93,000. Basically, it's extremely likely we'll hit that and take out that liquidity. And as for liquidity towards the upside, we do have this level building at close to 98,000. And overall, when it comes to my Bitcoin trading strategy, personally, it's not changed over the last one day. So as always, if you want to trade at these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNext. So I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNext below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to 35,000 in USDT and a bunch of other prizes here just by trading crypto using that link. And also, if you deposit just $100, you get a $20 bonus, or if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link below this video to BTNext. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, the first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNext is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNext as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and technically speaking, Ethereum is still within a larger bearish trend, also known as a bear market. But of course, we're still holding above this significant support, which is still sitting in between around 1.4k to 1550. And so really not a lot has changed for Ethereum on this chart over the last one day. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, we're now possibly starting to break below below this short-term level of support, which is sitting at around 1790, so just under 1.8k over the last 1 to 2 weeks here. This has been acting as support, but at least for now, we've not confirmed a break below that level. But if we do end up seeing a daily candle close well below around 1790, in that situation, we could find a small amount of support at around 1730 to 1740 and more support at around 1680 based on previous resistance flipping into new support. But just over the next one day, over the next 24 hours, do not expect any significant bullish momentum. In fact, expect either some slight bearish price action or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action, as I've already been saying over the last few days here on the channel, and it's already been playing out exactly as I've been predicting, and that's thanks to this bearish divergence, which is already actively playing out here on the 6-hour Ethereum price chart. And so as always, a bearish divergence with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI tells us do not expect any bullish momentum in the short term, and instead expect a pullback or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action. And of course, over the last few days, this is still perfectly playing out, and considering it is still active, we've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate this bearish divergence. Considering that, basically expect this to continue at least over the next one day, maybe longer, but at least over the next one day, this will likely continue here. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 3-day time frame, technically speaking, this bullish divergence is still currently active, but of course, in the immediate short term, we are experiencing a short-term cool-off, which is what I've been talking about here on the channel. Once again, expect similar price action for Solana and really most altcoins out there to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin is experiencing a cool-off, basically expect the same thing for most other crypto assets. So right now, that is the short-term situation. And if we're taking a look at the daily Solana price chart over the last couple of days, we have broken below this short-term support, which was sitting at around 146 to 147. And so far, we're actually struggling to get back above that level and starting to flip it into new resistance, which at least in the short term is some bearish price structure. And the next support to watch out for is sitting at approximately 137, give or take, based on previous resistance flipping into new support at around 137. And below that level, we have significant support right here at around 125 if we actually make it there. But once again, overall, just expect a short-term cool-off at least over the next one day, as I've already been saying, and is perfectly playing out as expected. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, of course, the price of XRP is still being influenced by this massive bearish divergence on the 3-day chart, which I warned about months ago now on the channel at much higher prices. So of course, that is still playing out right now. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, technically speaking, the price of XRP is still within this descending parallel channel, which is effectively a bearish trend forming lower highs and lower lows. And so as always, don't be fooled by seeing short-term bullish price action if overall the price structure, the trend is still bearish, forming lower highs and lower lows, because of course, from time to time, we can see short-term bullish reliefs during a bearish trend. So over the last couple of weeks, that's pretty much exactly what we saw right here, but technically we've not confirmed any reversal signal out of this bearish trend, at least not yet. And the next support to watch out for is sitting at around $2 to $2.05. So just above $2, we have a lot of support around there, and below around $2 to $2.05, the next important support is at close to $1.80. And once again, just expect similar price action to what I said earlier for Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is playing at this sort of price action, a bit of a short-term cool-off, a slight little pullback, expect something very similar for XRP and most altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's the same story for Chainlink as well. Of course, we are experiencing a short-term pullback, rejecting from significant resistance based on the previous golden pocket area of support, flipped into significant resistance right here during the end of March, and that's sitting at around 1490 to 1550. So once again, as I've been saying since before these perfect rejections, expect the price to struggle in this area. But even though, of course, in the immediate short term, this is bearish, rejecting from resistance, playing out a short-term pullback, technically speaking, for as long as we're holding above around $12.50 to $13, and ideally, if we can actually bounce from around there on the price chart, we could possibly form an inverse head and shoulders pattern for the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, which would be a bullish pattern, setting up a bullish price target well beyond $20 if it forms and confirms. And so obviously right now we're still potentially in the formation phase for this pattern. Of course, I want to make it clear it is not confirmed right now. It's just if we see some sort of bounce sometime soon in the next few days here, come back up towards $15.50 and then actually break out above $15.50, that would confirm this price pattern, which would be very bullish. So just watch out for that if we see a bounce soon. And as for support levels to watch out for, we will likely find some support at around $13.20, and below that more support at around $12.80, and below that more support at around $12.10 to $12.20. And so overall, those are my expectations in the shorter term over the next one day, and some of the potential patterns and important signals that I'm watching out for. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.